ADHD Babes, the podcast, a podcast hosted by the ADHD Babes community for the community. Please note, nothing mentioned during the podcast is meant as a diagnosis. If you believe you have ADHD, please seek professional advice and visit or join ADHDbabes.com for help with diagnosis. No clinical diagnosis is required to join. And now, you're listening to the next episode of ADHD Babes, the podcast.
Hello, and welcome to a new episode of ADHD Babes, the podcast. Thank you to everyone who's joined us by listening so far. Don't forget to follow so you never miss an episode, and also rate, review, and share so that others can find us too. Today's episode is hosted by me, Chichi, and we're going to be discussing what it's like to be Black, queer, and neurodivergent, and what it means to live at the intersections of these identities and not just survive, but to celebrate ourselves. Before we get into it, let's introduce our amazing guest. Could you share your name, pronouns, and a little bit about what you do? And because we're ADHD babes, what's your love language?
Hello, my name is Sarah. My pronouns are she, her, and a little bit about what I do. I do so many things, and I think that's related to my ADHD. I work freelance for a number of different charities where I facilitate workshops and classes. One is a cookery school with migrants called My Grateful. Another is an education charity with young people, teaching them about relationships and recognize healthy and unhealthy signs. And I'm recently working in a community garden in Lewisham, tackling health inequalities for Black residents there. So a number of different things.
I love that. You're definitely doing a lot. And
Yeah,
I think that's, a gift of our ADHD, right? We can do a lot.
definitely. Yeah.
So thank you so much. Welcome, Sarah. And actually, I did not share my pronouns. I'm Chichi, as I said earlier, and my pronouns are she, Aya, they, hers. So yeah, share my pronouns. And I identify as a member of the LGBTQ community, specifically as lesbian, queer. Okay, so let's start broad. Research shows that Black children are far less likely to be diagnosed with ADHD than white children. And when they are, it usually happens years later. Black women and non-binary people often get overlooked altogether. Yes, and even within our own communities, our queerness gets vilified, our neurodivergence gets demonized, and sometimes we're labeled as weird or off. So here's a question for you, Sarah. Have you ever had the experience of being misdiagnosed, dismissed, or just not believed about your neurodivergence? And how did that impact you if you have had that experience?
I think this question is hard for me to answer because I got my diagnosis very recently, and I got my diagnosis very soon after I realized that I could have ADHD. It was something that never even occurred to me for the first 30 years of my life. It was something that didn't apply to me. It was something that I always thought applied to just the narrative that we're always told about ADHD. It's a young boy, it's usually a white boy as well, very energetic, causing chaos, disruptive in classes. And that was not my narrative. That wasn't who I was. I was very quiet. I loved school, so it was something that I excelled at school, so it wasn't noticed. But it's only recently now, after my diagnosis and meeting other people with ADHD, especially Black queer people, realizing that so much of my childhood, it showed, like, you could see ADHD if you were looking for it and you knew where to find it in these groups, in these communities, in like a young girl like me. And it makes me really, really sad because I went so many years of my life trying so hard to understand why things felt so difficult, why I couldn't, like you said, feeling odd, feeling weird, not quite fitting in, and then not understanding where that came from. And then as you become an adult, struggling with just the day-to-day managing of just our existences essentially. And I think, yeah, it, and I think a big part of it is, yeah, when you don't recognize it yourself, you're not even able to speak about it. And if people aren't even looking for it within our communities, then why would they even find it as well? And a big thing that really, that I think about a lot and really affects me is when we talk about misdiagnosis as well, is like when I was in university and I was struggling with my ADHD, but not knowing that what it was, I was then diagnosed with depression and anxiety around that. And then that in itself creates a big, whirlpool of, mess and yeah, trauma around that, and not understanding where exactly it's coming from. And when the crux is something completely different, then the treatments never work, obviously. So I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. I can really relate to what you said about, I was diagnosed about like 2022, so about 3 years ago, and I didn't really believe it at first. Because again, I thought, uh, me ADHD, I know I'm always late and everything, but you know, I'm Nigerian. We're always late, and I talk a lot, all these things, but I didn't really believe it. And there is, and I've been diagnosed as combined type. So I have some of the hyperactivity, but I also have the forgetting things, getting lost in my head. And a lot of people who are assigned female at birth, if they have ADHD, they tend to have, from what I heard, what I've learned in my own research. This is my own opinion, but it seems that they tend to have combined or the inattentive presentation. So that is less of the bouncing off the walls, even though some of us, it can include that. But it's more like the forgetting things, lack of motivation, getting lost in our heads. And then if you have combined, I learned that hyperactivity can look like reading voraciously, which is what I did. Because I know I talked a lot, but I didn't fully identify with hyperactivity because I'm like, I'm always tired. How can I be hyperactive? However, I read voraciously, obsessively as a child, and also the talking, hyperverbal. But because there's not a lot of research about ADHD and what it looks like in people who are assigned female at birth, a lot of us go through what you described, like, what are you talking about? It's like boys who are bouncing off the walls. So yeah, I really relate to what you shared, and I thank you for sharing that. And I also was not believed. At first, I didn't believe until I hit burnout and fell apart. And then my family is like, what are you talking about? So
It's
yeah,
exactly
yeah.
my family's response to my diagnosis. Be like,
Mhm.
really? Did you get this on the internet? And I'm like, no, I
Yeah.
spoke to a psychiatrist. This is a real diagnosis. And then I think they're recognizing in themselves that maybe they also have ADHD. And I'm like, I think, yeah, all of us probably do. There are familial traits. But I didn't even know about the hyperverbal and being a voracious reader. This is me, and I've literally found this out now. And I think when I was filling in my assessment form and they asked about childhood experiences, it was very difficult for me to even like put my experiences into like the symptoms that I'd seen. I'm like, I don't even know what counts as a symptom. I just know that I have this, but I don't even know how to explain it. And I went to my family to, because you have to get family and friends to like talk about that, but they didn't even know. They're like, you were fine, you were great, you loved school, what's the problem? And it's now like trying to get them to understand it's so many different things. And I think for me, I'm always early because I'm terrified of being late, and I know that I can't really manage time
Mhm.
right. So I'm always like, I'll be super early because I'm too scared to be late. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and what you said, thank you for reminding me about what you said about doing well in school. That messed me up too. I did really well in school. And I even went to law school and became a lawyer, and I didn't want to be a lawyer. So I was the very smart one, but I fell apart when it came to being in the real world. I still don't understand the real 9 to 5 world. I don't understand it. So
Chichi, I went to med
yeah.
school and I burnt out in med school.
Yes.
But like, it's
What
really
are
hard
we
to explain.
doing? Exactly. Exactly. So did you finish and like become a
Oh,
doctor, or like?
it was very difficult. And around the same time that it was happening, so I'd done very well at med school, and then there were a lot of like personal circumstances around it, and this partly informs the work that I do now. My grandma had dementia. I was caring for her with my sister at the time, and then we had quite a few bereavements in the family as well. So it just went. I couldn't manage a lot of like the workload and the admin around trying to ask for help and trying to the admin of care navigation for family members in a very hostile like healthcare system. It was just a medley of course it led to falling apart and burning out. And
Yep.
it's
Totally.
it's so
Oh, I
sad.
really.
And I think
So
back on it
sad.
now and I'm like, I wish I knew from the beginning like where this was coming from, and I knew that if I could just have, just a lot of it was so much admin that I couldn't send the emails to be like, I need this support. And it was just, but yeah.
My God, I so hear that. Yeah. Like I get really annoyed about having ADHD. This is one way I get annoyed around it, because the answer to get it's like I have ADHD and I need help. And I struggle with doing stuff and being motivated to do stuff. In order to get the help, I need to do stuff. So it feels like this horrible catch-22 of like, yeah, I can't do stuff. That's why I need help. But I need to do stuff to get help. Ah! Like, so yeah, I totally relate to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to bring in this next part. This is about your queerness. Do you feel like your queerness and Blackness intersected with that in specific ways?
That's really interesting because when I was thinking about this question, I couldn't separate it from my other intersections. So my other intersection, I'm also Arab. So my Blackness really, because I'm from Sudan, so it really has a very interesting like connection there. And growing up, I went to an Arab school, and so being a Black Arab in that space was very, very difficult. And so I think I can't think about my Blackness without thinking about that. And then my queerness, I can't think about it without thinking about my Muslimness, like being a Muslim. And so it's hard to pull them out. And it's only now, again, in my 30s, after recognizing like how these all fit together, that I'm able to see how they present in my life, and where I'm able to express them, and where I'm able to find community and find spaces where I can have these parts of my identity seen.
Yeah, I mean, that is very true. I love that you talked about being from Sudan and also being Muslim, because, yeah, it's not a separate thing. It's all together. It's all together. I can't, there's no separation. Like, same thing for me. I am Nigerian. I am a Nigerian immigrant. I was born in Nigeria and I lived there till I was 15. And so with being queer, there's like, I really would think I can't be Nigerian and queer. And I was told that you cannot be Nigerian and lesbian, or you cannot be Nigerian and bi, or something, Actually, I was told you cannot be like Nigerian and bi, which is what I used to identify as. And I had to pick one, like whatever, and neither one was accepted anyway. And I also grew up Catholic. I no longer identify with any religion, but yes, that religious piece and the immigrant piece, the African piece, like it's a lot. And there's a lot of intensity about being queer, LGBTQ in Nigeria, like negative hatred intensity. So it's not like it is. I'm in the United States, and there's some definitely here, but in Nigeria, it's not accepted. At least older generations. I think the youth are doing much better about it, but the older generations, it's illegal, all that stuff. So I can imagine it's the same in Sudan.
Yeah, and Sudan's one of the countries where it's punishable by like
Yeah.
capital punishment. Yeah, it's
Yep.
it's severe over there. So it was one of those like I didn't even think gay Sudanese people existed or queer Sudanese people existed. It was something that I was just like, cool, this doesn't happen. Yeah, it's not a thing. And then on top of like it's against a religion, you can't do that. It was one of those that you just didn't question it. And then growing up in this country, like obviously queer people exist, and it was something that I was like, okay, it doesn't directly affect me, this isn't me, but people live their lives, sure. And it was only after I started like really removing myself from that and started really critically thinking about the religion as well and be like, do I believe this? Is this what I want? Is this something that I want for myself? And try to really make that choice that I realized no. And then I was able to really think about what other things have you been taught that you want to let go of? And part of it was that homophobia essentially, and that idea that we don't exist.
Oh my God. Like, Sarah, you were just exactly. When you said, I didn't think gay Sudanese people existed, I'm like, literally, I'm like, you, Sarah, I'm like, I have to add you to my list. Another person, a gay African or like LGBTQ. How do you identify, if you don't mind my asking?
I tend to say queer,
Okay.
because I would say bisexual or pansexual. And then I don't know, I like to say to my friends that maybe a gender journey is on its way. Because that's another thing that growing up, I always wanted to cut my hair. I wanted to dress more like a boy. Like I didn't understand why I had to always dress like, you know the whole thing. Like why can't I just run around red trousers? Just
Exactly.
be free and comfortable. Like, I bet I would have been hyperactive if I was allowed to just be comfortable.
Exactly. I have brothers and I have no sisters. And I remember when I was a kid, my brothers be like, go away, you're a girl. Go away, you're a girl. And
Yeah.
my mom would be like, oh yeah, you need to cook this or clean this so that you can get a good husband. Like, what? Like,
Oh
what?
no.
And I had no idea I was queer or anything like that. I was like, ew, what?
Yes.
Yes. Exactly. Oh my goodness.
So much. Like this is it. Like I was really into wrestling and I was really into football, and then I got to a certain age where you're just like, no, you're not allowed to hang out with the boys. You're not allowed to like watch this stuff, and it's no.
Like,
So yeah,
you're a girl. You do girl things,
genuinely.
And there's nothing wrong with so-called girl things. Like, I later did, when I started performing as a singer, I still got into makeup and stuff like that. However, I still like to wear my hoodies and, so
Yeah.
it's like, why do I have to be one or the other? Like, I'm everything. Yeah.
I think this is it. This is why I have so many jobs. This is why I say I'm like pansexual. I'm like, I want everything. I want to do all of it. I don't want to be boxed in. I'm curious about everything. Everything has its own little joy that you can get from it.
Thank you for sharing that. So, well, speaking of everything, this is a great segue. Have you navigated feeling too much or not enough in different spaces?
Always. I think that's something that I'm always just flopping between. I think I'm still figuring out how much, like, it's the unmasking, and I haven't figured it out yet. And sometimes I'm like, oh, did I reveal too much? And then it's like, and then there's just this like, oh God. And then other times I'm like, oh, I wish I'd shared more, like, and like, I don't know. It's just, I always feel like I haven't hit the right spot yet, but the more I'm giving myself space and like really just thinking about stuff and meeting more people with ADHD and realizing, okay, there's so many different ways we're all navigating the same little like tangle of like emotions and stuff, that it really helps a lot of that. Like, yeah. But it's time, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, me too. The whole too much, not enough. I love that phrase because it really does describe how I feel. Like too loud, too much energy, but not enough to like consistently wake up in the morning and do what I need to do. Like, but I'm dancing at 3 a.m. and I'm like, ooh, podcast, ooh, like. But go make my bed or do laundry. Oh God, I'm so tired. I'm so exhausted.
Oh. No. Oh, this is so real. It's like, why am I cleaning my house? I haven't made food. So why am I resorting everything for you? Oh.
Yeah, I've been living on protein bars. Like, just I can't.
For me, it's granola.
Yes, exactly. Oh God. So we're gonna switch to another topic. This is about masking. Is it another topic? Is all related, isn't it? So masking is something we talk about a lot. Studies show that women and AFAB, assigned female at birth, folks with ADHD often mask more than men, and for Black neurodivergent people, masking becomes survival. So when do you find yourself masking the most, and what does that look like for you?
I think for me, I feel like I'm masking the most when I'm in like work settings, and I feel like I need to really hide like the chaos behind so like it's like you don't know how many thoughts are like bouncing off, and there's like so I feel like those are the settings. Or like for me, it's networking as well. Actually, I can't network because I'm always like, what am I saying the right thing here? When do I? Yeah, so I think those settings where it's like most that I feel like I'm masking in. Yeah.
So you said work settings and networking. Yeah, that makes sense. How about around family or other Black people, other Sudanese people?
I think for me, it really it's different. So I don't feel like I'm masking my ADHD or my neurodivergence as much as I'm masking like the other parts of me, so like my queerness and the fact that I'm also like not a practicing Muslim. Like I've
Hmm.
like it's something that it's not part of my life right now. Um, and so I'm masking those aspects of my identity. So like the neurodivergence isn't the first thing that I think about when I'm around family is the thing that I'm masking. But when I'm in like work settings, I can share those other identities. But then it's like then I have to hide like the ADHD side or the neurodivergent side. So I feel like in different settings I have to mask different parts of me. That
Yeah,
makes sense.
no, I
Mm.
really hear that. I really hear that. And that's, you know, part of the issue of all those intersectionalities. It's like, no, I'm not just this, not just this. Gotta change, mask this, hide this, And I will tell you this, this is one of the gifts of being 46. I've let go of a lot of like, because called it I have three coming outs. My first coming out was telling my parents, even though I have this law degree and law license, I'm not going to be a practicing lawyer. I'm going to like figure out my music thing. First coming out. The second coming out was coming out as lesbian queer. And the third coming out like ADHD, all this stuff. And it's been really difficult. And I also had the experience of masking in some settings and different things. Like when I was working a 9 to 5, it was easier to be out and queer. And because I was hiding my identity from my family, with friends and work, I was very open. Like my ex was like, "You're always flying the gay flag." I'm like, "Yeah," because I'm high, my family knew, but I couldn't really feel. I masked a little bit, and then with the neurodivergence, like there's not a lot of acknowledgement. But like you said earlier, I'm seeing all the neurodivergence they have because this stuff is genetic, and the ADHD, the autism, all up in my family. So yeah, that's. But I would say as I've grown older, I care less and less, and I'm more open, completely burning out and falling apart. I was just like, you know what? I'm going to be myself. And now that I'm in this entrepreneurial space, this part of my mission and all of that. So I'm pretty open, but I do live in my parents' house right now. And or I'm staying in my parents' house, and I do. So it's tempered. So there is some masking, but I know that I've been older and just life has kicked me in the butt enough to be like, you know what? I'm gonna be myself. So I don't mask anywhere as much as I used to. But this segues into my next question. So what helps you unmask? What does it feel like when you can finally just be yourself?
I think that's a hard one because I've been thinking about how I can unmask more, and I honestly I still don't know what helps me unmask. Yeah, I think sometimes I just feel like I can. I don't know. It's like a feeling maybe of safety where I'm like, this person won't judge me for, whatever I'm going to say or how I'm going to act. I think it's that finding a non-judgmental, safe space where I can just be myself in whatever way I can show up as I am, essentially. Um, yeah. And like, can I go back to the question about masking around family?
Of course, of course. Go ahead.
Because it made me think about my young cousins, and so I try very hard to unmask around like ADHD and neurodivergence around them because they range from the age 9 to 17. Like there's four boys, and essentially most of them have ADHD. There's one who, like, it's when we play board games, it comes out very, very significantly. No one can wait their turn. We're always shouting at each other. Like, there's one who's like, if he gets bored, he starts doing cartwheels in the corner. And you're like, this is. It's like,
My goodness.
and like, and this is like growing up, they were all a bit like this, and like they all had their like things. So I try very hard to like be very open about that around them. Like, yeah, this could be like you have ADHD. I mean, I'm not here to diagnose them, but I'm like, just so you're aware, I have ADHD. It shows up in this ways for me, and this is like how I support myself. And like, this is if you ever need to talk. So like, I try very hard to be like, it's okay, you're fine. But it's
Yeah.
so obvious every time I hang out with them.
I'm still thinking about the cartwheels in the corner. I'm like,
Genuinely.
oh my goodness. Yep. Yeah. You know, and it's funny because, you know, what you said about, well, it's not funny, but what you said about that feeling of you just sense it from somebody. And yeah, like maybe it's like an energy that somebody has, and I feel like I can be safe around them. And of course, for me also, neurodivergent communities, so like ADHD babes and other I'm in two communities. I'm in ADHD babes, and I'm also in another community for people who are neurodivergent and queer. And even though ADHD babes is also very queer friendly, so yeah, like being around my people, so to speak, does help me with the unmasking. But like you said, it's also sometimes just a person just has that energy, and it feels safe. And yeah.
And that's the thing. The first time that I felt like, yeah, oh my god, I can unmask. I was at a space. It was a retreat by Wanderers of Colour, where it's where I met an ADHD babe, Lily,
Ooh.
and we were sharing a room, and I very much was like, I don't know, I think I might have ADHD. I don't know much about it, and I was thinking about it, and we'd spent like a few hours just and they were like, yeah, probably, and I was like, what? And then the whole weekend I was like, huh? And it was a whole weekend of like, you know, people of colour who were like queer and neurodivergent. I was like, what is this? This is this wonderland.
So cool.
Genuinely, like, everyone's so interesting, and we're all just bouncing off each other. It was amazing. And then
What was this? Wanderers of Color?
Wanderers of Colour. Yeah, it's another community group where it's getting more people of colour into the outdoors, essentially. So they do lots of retreats, climbing, skateboarding, lots, everything you can think of in terms of like outdoors they do. And so yeah, I just went on this retreat just on a whim, and then yeah, it changed my life, and I found out from there, I'm like, ADHD presents in these ways, wow. And that was that was the time I was like, I unmasked without even realizing I didn't realize I had this mask on until it fell, and I was like, wow, I don't have to live like this. These communities exist. I have people who have lived similar lives to me, who understand where I'm coming from, and then I was introduced to ADHD babes, and changed my life again. Amazing.
Yeah, no. Thank you for sharing that. Honestly, some of us deserve Oscars for the level of masking we've done. And the award goes to every Black neurodivergent person at a family gathering or at work, right? So, yeah, it's so important that we have those spaces. And I just learned of a new one, Wanderers of Color. And are they only UK based?
I think at the moment they are, but we can check. Yeah, I think at the moment.
Yeah. And maybe we can put the link in the show notes for anybody who's interested, and it's in the UK. So thank you for sharing that. Okay, let's get into the juicy part. Dating and relationships.
Yeah.
Being Black, queer, neurodivergent, and for both of us, African and stuff. Because honestly, this is where all the intersections really show up. Come on now. Yes. And a study I saw recently suggested that up to 40% of people with ADHD and autism identify somewhere on the LGBTQ spectrum. Not surprising, which means a lot of us are figuring out how to love, date, and build relationships while also managing our neurodivergence. And let's be real, it can be a roller coaster. From forgetting to text back because you fell into a hyper-focused rabbit hole, to partners thinking you're too much because your feelings are so big. Oh, God. So, question. Have you ever felt like your neurodivergence showed up in dating in ways people didn't understand? What was that like?
Oh, God. I don't even know where to begin.
Right?
But I don't, I'm like, where do I start? So like, there's one where we're like, forgetting to text people. I'm like, yes, that's very, very real. And and just having to like schedule like dates in. I think that part of it and the management of that can be quite a lot. And I'm noticing that I get very tired of it very quickly. Especially like online dating. I think it's
Oof.
a nightmare. Especially with ADHD. I'm like, I can't keep track of this. But one that really came to my mind straight away was like recently, since my diagnosis, I've been telling people quite early on that like I have ADHD. So like, especially if we're in like big like pub settings or pit settings where it's like very noisy, and I can't focus on what they're saying because of just the amount of like background noise, and having to explain that like we need to either go somewhere quieter, or like just having to understand that. But I've had quite a few people who have outright said, no, you don't have ADHD. And yeah, just denying it. And I'm like, you've known me what for 3 hours? How are you qualified to make this assessment? And yeah, so I've had someone's like, oh, I need to see your diagnosis. Genuinely.
What?
Yeah.
Really? I mean, I'm not surprised. Because people think that ADHD, autism, they think that somehow they have the right to say something, about your identity. Like, oh, you have ADHD. Well, I don't believe you. Like, that's not your business. Okay. That's me telling you about me, and you saying, okay, thank you, because you don't get to talk about who I am. You tell me who you are, and I'm telling you who I am. So, but with ADHD, like, and actually ADHD, autism, some other invisible disabilities, people can just be like, oh, no, well, everybody has that, or I feel like that. Oh, God.
There's a lot of dismissal, like honestly, and like it started because he was making jokes about how people with autism don't have social skills or something, and I was like, wow. And then it turned into, when I told him I had ADHD, it's like, okay, when we go out, do you want me to bring fidget toys, and do you want me to do it? And yeah, I was like, how is this where you've gone with this? I've shared something very personal. I've told you something about like who I am, and this is where we're going with this. And yeah, it was, but in the end, I schooled him quite hard about it, and he did apologize. And I was like, okay, cool, but thanks, goodbye. Yeah, I hope your next interactions are not this patronizing and judgmental.
Yeah, I mean, on the one hand, I'm glad you were able to make it a learning experience for him, so maybe he won't do that to the next person, even though that was not your job.
No.
Yes, it was not your job. And I will say something that a positive is that it helps me weed people out. Like, okay, you have a problem, goodbye, because this is not going to work. This is not going to work. So that is one good thing about,
it's a great litmus test, genuinely. Now I'm like, I'm dropping this first date, like, let's see how this goes. Because if it goes anyway, like the last few times, that's it. Save myself some time.
We are done. We're done. Thank you. Goodbye. Yeah. So, next question. Has being ADHD or autistic or anything like that, or neurodivergent, ever clashed with queer dating expectations, or maybe even made it funnier, more complicated, or more beautiful, would you say?
I don't know, to be honest. What do you mean by that?
So, for example, I can share my own experience because, so for example, when I met my ex, she asked a lot of questions about me, and I can be very oblivious, like, what, and I don't know, maybe it's part of my autism with the whole social expectations, but so we were together for 11 years. It was not until years later that I was like, oh, she was asking me all these questions to get to know me. So then, and it's not like I didn't ask her questions, but I was like, okay, I'm just asking questions. Like, I have this part of my neurodivergence or my brain that's like, okay, I guess this is what we're doing. Okay, you know, this is what we're doing. And I'm like, oh, crap, that makes a lot of sense. Let me apply that now in my new, when I start dating again. So that's what I mean. Just anything that is like funnier, more complicated, or more beautiful, or just like, and it doesn't have to be queer dating. It could be like, you know, if you're dating a guy, you know, even though you're still queer, but, you know, it looks like heterosexual dating.
I think for me, it's very much when I read back on my interactions with people, my tone is not right. I'm like, I'm like, this sounds like they tell me something, and I'm like, no, this is not the right reaction. And so like recently I've stopped. I'm like, can we move to voice notes? Yeah. I'm like, I'm a lot better in voice notes. Okay.
Right.
And it's one of those where I was like, why has this interaction gone so weirdly? And then I read back the message and I'm like, oh, because everything I've written has been so weird. Yeah.
No, I hear that. I hear that. Like, you know what you said about tone. It's funny because I am so sensitive to tone and how people talk to me. But then I can have a tone and be just oblivious to my own tone. I'm like, why is she being mean to me? And then she's like, how about the way you talk to me? I was like, wait, what are you talking about? So yeah, tone is a big one. It's a big one.
That's something I'm navigating. I'm like, I'm really bad at texting.
Yeah. I do prefer, I can text. I'm a communicator, obviously. I can text, but I tend to read, like, if it's dating, like, well, I think for everybody, like, I can read a negative thing if the person doesn't include emojis or just says, you know, if I'm like, hey, how are you doing? And they're like, great, thanks. How are you?
I don't use emojis, and I think that's...
So maybe you're the... Oh my God, it's you. We can never date, Sarah.
No, I'll send you voice notes.
Okay,
my voice notes are fantastic.
I do like voice notes. They're great. Yes, you can get the tone.
They're like mini podcasts. I love them.
Yes, I love that. I love that. Great. Yeah. So... No, go ahead. Were you about to say?
This is what I'm realizing, because I'm like, this is another thing with like queer dating. When I'm dating like straight guys or something, it's very much like, I think it's just like matter of fact, and it's been fine. But now dating more queer people, I'm like, oh no, emojis exist, and now I'm like learning this language of emojis. I'm like, I'm like, I'm very curt in my messages. I'm like, this is not coming across, and I'm like struggling to flirt in these messages. I'm like, oh god, yeah. Yeah,
exactly. And, you know, emotional regulation can be really difficult for me as well, because I do have that anxious attachment style. And so I can easily read into, oh, a curt message, not like, oh, that is her way of being, or her, you know, or maybe she's busy. It's like, oh my God, you hate me. You hate me. This is not going to work out. And I'm not just talking about dating. In a relationship, living with my ex, and she would be curt, or she would text something. I'd be like, oh my God, you hate me. And she's like, we're living together. What? You know? So yes, like that emotional regulation can be just like, oh, I can get so anxious and so over the top. What about you? Do you have...
No, like I didn't even know emotional dysregulation was a symptom of ADHD until like very recently. Like I'm still learning so much about ADHD. And yeah, when I found out, I'm like, this makes so much sense. This explains so, like, my past relationships, why things sometimes would go so, like, you know, 0 to 60 or whatever, so many times, and I'd feel so like emotional and so hurt by like just small things, and then and I couldn't understand what I was feeling, or why I was feeling just so like intensely. And then I think at the same time learning about rejection sensitivity dysphoria, and that one, and like dating is just all of that. It's just, do you want some rejection as well? Let's just throw that in. Let's yeah.
Girl, I'm so glad you brought up RSD, because yes, rejection sensitivity dysphoria, that is, yeah, that is me all
That's
the time.
the bane of my life. it even makes like applying for jobs difficult. You're like, this just yeah. But dating, it's one of those because you get lots of little rejections. Someone doesn't reply to a thing, you don't match, or the date doesn't go well, or they can't. Like, there's so many instances where you could be rejected, and it's just like little hits every time. Like, oh, and yeah, it's hard.
It is hard. It is hard. And yeah, the whole job thing, exactly. Like, auditions, or, if I'm looking for a speaking gig, like, life is that rejection. That's how you get
Yeah,
to the thing that aligns with you in dating, in life. But going through that, it feels so personal. Like, you hate me. Yes, I didn't want to be with you, but you hate me. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, I want
yeah,
everybody to like me, whether or not I want to be with you.
yes. This is so real. Like, honestly. Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, our intensity can be a lot, but it can also be magic. So a lot of us love deeply. We notice small details and we hyperfixate on the person we love. Has your intensity, the way you feel things so strongly, ever been a gift in your relationship?
Honestly, I do see it as a gift. Like, in my past relationship, I do. I relish the fact that I can love very deeply. I love that about a lot of the relationships that I have. And I love the ways that it comes. Yeah, that I don't know how to phrase it, but I don't know. When I think about the intensity, I think the word intensity makes me think quite like negatively sometimes, but I think it can mean that you consider people quite a lot. You can be quite thoughtful. You can be very caring, and I think I see it in that sense. In that I do put a lot into relationships around that. But yeah, I think it has been a gift. And I know it's been difficult as well, but I've learned so much from it as well. So I'm like, I don't know. I wouldn't change it, to be honest. I like the fact that I can, yeah, form these deep connections and relationships.
Yeah, I agree. I don't see intensity as a negative, I guess it could be, but I don't see it as a negative. And yeah, I think it's great that we can form deep connections, a lot of us neurodivergent people. And yeah, I can be really caring and hyper focused on a partner or somebody as well. But I do want to highlight something because some of us can feel this way. So at the same time I can hyper focus, I don't know that I love deeply because I came from a lot of emotional numbness growing up because of trauma. And I think there was a point in my life I shut down my emotions. So I can take the actions of caring, but the feelings, at least in my past relationships, haven't always shown up. And I wonder if any other neurodivergent people have this experience. And I know that for many people, particularly people who are autistic, alexithymia, where we may not be able to name our feelings or know our feelings, that can be a big thing. So I really have struggled a long time with emotional numbness and feeling disconnected from myself and my body, while at the same time taking the actions that were caring, but not feeling that connection. So I've worked through a lot of that. Somatic release work, energy work has really helped me, therapy and stuff like that. But, I know that trauma and complex PTSD, CPTSD, can be a very common experience with people who are neurodivergent. So I just wanted to highlight that too.
No, no, I'm glad you brought alexithymia because I think about that a lot as well. Because I think there has been so many times where I don't know what I'm feeling. I just know I'm feeling something intensely. Um, and yeah, so I think, yeah, that's been something that I've been struggling with, trying to name these emotions and figure out where they're coming from. Because they hit you, and you're just like, what is this, and why do I feel like this? And I think there's a lot of like not realizing that I'm getting to this point until it's too late. You're like, oh,
Hmm.
I didn't even notice that I was yeah coming to this point of, but now I am overwhelmed. And I can't like yeah regulate anymore.
Yeah, yeah, that's a big one. For me, for negative emotions, I will say that even though I had a hard time feeling the positive, negative emotions were easy to feel, like anger and fear. And what you said, yes, about not even noticing that I was at a 10 and then just lashing out. Yeah. And then feeling like sorry, like, oh my God, but I can't bring it down. So yeah, that is, I really, that, I don't know, is alexithymia, alexithymia or emotional dysregulation or all of it. But yeah, I don't always know. Yep. So how would you navigate, or how do you navigate communicating your needs to a partner, especially if the partner doesn't fully get neurodivergence?
Honestly, I don't know how to answer that because that's something I'm still figuring out. Since I've got my diagnosis, I've not really dated very much because I'm still trying to figure out how to navigate it. And I've been thinking a lot about how it's presented in my past relationships without even knowing that some of the issues were ADHD. It's only recently I'm like, okay, so when this happened, I was dysregulated in this way. I was feeling the rejection sensitivity in this sense. And then, so yes, I've done a lot of work trying to unpick that and figure out how to then move into it because I still don't know how to navigate it. It's something that I'm still learning. Do you have any advice?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And please
Mm.
tell me again when you were diagnosed.
I think it was about a year ago, just over a year ago.
That
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense. So like I said, I was diagnosed about 3 years ago, and it has taken a lot of time to just first know what my ADHD looks like, know what ADHD is, then know what my own flavor of ADHD looks like and how to navigate the world. And now, and also the, medication and treatment and things that would help me. And then also, I now see that I have autistic traits, and so I identify as ADHD. So seeing that, and so it takes a long time, and I have not fully arrived. And for me, I was still in my relationship with my ex in 2022, and we broke up in 2024, and it was difficult because I was still trying to figure out who I was. You know, and because I hit burnout, I just fell apart. So it was really hard for her because she just saw this different person. And I became a different person because a lot of the masks that I didn't even know I was carrying dropped and fell apart. So, yeah, it is difficult. And if to answer your question about advice, I think the best advice I can offer is get to know yourself. Get to know your ADHD, your neurodivergence, ADHD, whatever, and also get to know yourself and find community. Because another way I start to learn how things were for me is that I heard other people talking about it. And I was like, oh, I can relate to that, or it's different for me, or whatever. So I think I need to know what my needs are before I can communicate them. So yeah,
This is genuinely, and it's
that's
me trying
real.
to figure out, how am I feeling in each of these situations and then listening to my body. And I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of history around not being able to one, communicate my needs and then have my needs met. So then
Hmm.
there's a lot of just dismissing my own needs. And
Yes.
now I'm trying to learn again, okay, when this is what I need right now, rather than because I know myself, I'm a people pleaser and I appease a lot when I'm in a situation where I'm uncomfortable. And so it's trying to understand. Yeah. So yes, I'm trying to spend a lot of time understanding that. And then, like you said, I'm thinking about autism as well because of the overlap. And so there's so much of trying to unpick different parts and I think it's a long journey, so I'm taking time to just understand where I am right now.
Totally, totally. And I think that is time well spent, and I think that is really important. And what you said about being a people pleaser and not, like, I'm going to use my own words, but not abandoning yourself. I think that's really great. And that's another thing I would advise because that is something that really helped me too. I really had to practice because I'm also a people pleaser, or I want other people to like me and tell me I'm okay. And I seek reassurance. And I think I like those terms better than people pleaser because I think it's more accurate. I seek reassurance. I seek approval. I want other people to tell me I'm okay. I'm enough. So practicing that, my self-compassion, having my own back. And I think it's okay to say, I don't say to a partner, I don't really know what my needs are, but I'm learning and I'm trying to figure it out. But I know that I need something. I think it's okay to just be really honest, to anybody who might be in a relationship. And if you're not, like I'm single, I am taking time, like you were saying, Sarah, to just really get to know myself before jumping into another relationship. And yeah. So
And
thank you.
I think a
Go
big
ahead.
thing is I'm waiting to get therapy right now, and I think that's a
Mhm.
big thing that I'm like, I need to like understand all of this, because right now I'm like trying to navigate on my own. I'm like, I think I need more support to understand this, especially, yeah, where a lot of this comes from and what is things that need, to be put away, I think, essentially, and then
Mhm.
what else is, something that I can work with.
Mhm. 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 Yeah. And with queer dating, I do think there is something unique because unique about queer dating with ADHD and autism because queer culture already bends the rules, right? So maybe in a heterosexual relationship or a heterosexual looking relationship, there are all these roles, and it might feel hard to say, oh, I don't really know what I need or something like that. But with queer dating, it's already different and we're already outside the norm. So I wondered, do you think being queer has actually made it easier for you to embrace your neurodivergence in relationships? Since like queer love, we're creating our own blueprint?
Yeah, I think so. I think because of also because I'm poly as well, so I think as that's another one where you're like bending the rules, and so much of it is around communication and knowing what your needs are and finding what your partner's needs are, and then navigating that together. That has given me the language, and now it's understanding what my needs are. So like I have the language, but I just don't know what it is that I need right now. Um, so yeah, it's definitely helped. And I think, like you said earlier, finding your community, and finding people who've like modeling this, or like, and like, I'm like, okay, so this is how you can do it, and this is how other people have done it, has been
Yeah.
really, really big. And I've only just recently found my queer community, and it's like
Yes.
taken such a long time. So like last year, or like I met my first queer Arab friend that I made,
I
and
love
then
that.
and we were both like, oh my god, another one. And then like a few weeks ago, I found this queer Arab community in London. And then I met my
Amazing.
first other Sudanese queer person, and she was like, "You're number 4," and I'm like, "Oh my god, there's 3 others." I was like, "Wait," and then I was like, "There's 2 others. Who are they?" Like, and we're like, "Okay." So yeah, so it's been really amazing trying to find that. I'm like, okay, wow, there are people, and one of them queer Sudanese people, she's like in her 70s. You're like, wow, we have elders. We have like queer lesbian elders in the community. I'm like, it blew my mind. It's just, yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that you mentioned that. And I do agree. I think being queer does make it easy for me anyway to embrace my neurodivergence because again, I'm already outside the norm. I have some practice being outside the norm. So yeah, I think it would be harder for me if I was in the heterosexual box and this is what is expected as a heterosexual woman or as a cisgender heterosexual monogamous woman, all these boxes. Exactly. And so I agree. And like you mentioned, there's chosen family because sometimes the deepest love stories aren't romantic at all. They're about our queer and neurodivergent communities holding us when dating feels impossible. And I really, really relate to that. Yeah. So when you think about love in the broadest sense, chosen family, friendships, community, what's one way your neurodivergence makes those bonds stronger, you think?
I don't know. I find it difficult to answer a question like this because I don't know how to separate my neurodivergence
Mm-hmm.
and into this, and like it's like, how does my I think in those instances, because I'm still figuring out what is neurodivergence, and like it's all just me. So I'm like, I don't know. It doesn't feel any different than who I am. I don't. It's really hard to explain. I don't know if I'm managing to even say anything that's worthwhile.
No, you are. I don't think there's really a right answer for any of this.
It just
sharing your thoughts and experiences.
For me, it's when I think about my hyperfixations and my special interests and how much, like, because I'm interested in almost everything. So whenever I meet someone, like, we can connect over something, and then even if I don't know this, I want to know this. I'm so curious, and so we can connect over that. And I think in that sense, it's that part of my neurodivergence has really, like, it elevated a lot of my relationships, because people are like, oh wow, you care about what I care about. I'm like, of course I did. This is like, and then we can talk about it for like, and it's something that I really enjoy about my neurodivergence, and like in the ways that it shows up in my relationships.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great point you made about being interested in everything, and it helps you connect with different people about different things. And I can relate to that too. And it can definitely make bonds stronger because, somebody's into this and I'm like, oh, I'm interested, So, and I do think that's part of my neurodivergence. And at the same time, I really agree with what you said. Like, I don't always know what is neurodivergence, what is me, what is this, I don't know. I'm just me, and I'm awesome, So, yeah. So I think, who knows, right? Like,
yeah.
Medical professionals barely know. We're just trying to figure it out as we go along, right? So, yeah. So thank you for sharing. I really relate to what you said, and I think our listeners will too. So what I'm hearing is that dating and relationships can definitely be complicated, but they can also be beautiful when people embrace all of who we are. And it's not about fixing ourselves to fit someone else, or even like defining whether this is our neurodivergence, this is our this is our that. It's about finding people who love us because of our quirks, not in spite of them. I want us to end with joy, because yes, the struggles are real, but so is the beauty. Neurodivergence brings creativity, empathy, and deep passion. It's why we're funny, why we make art, and why we build community. So what's a space, friendship, or chosen family moment that's giving you joy and belonging?
Right now?
Yeah. As best as you can think of, all good. So for me, there's more than one I can share. In ADHD Babes, just seeing that I'm not the only Black, African, queer, neurodivergent person. Like, so this conversation with you is bringing me so much joy. And then in ADHD Babes support groups, and just feeling like I can relate. And when I share something, I'm not out there alone like a crazy person. And because I'm the crazy one in my family. I'm the crazy one. I'm the purple sheep. I'm the everything. Fine, And so, yeah, like hearing my people and finding that more of us exist. Like I just met you, Sarah. So I'm like, oh my God, somebody's add to my box. Yay, joy. So, so those things bring me joy. And yeah. So if you have any examples, I'd love to hear them.
I think when I was trying to answer the question, I was like trying to pinpoint an example. I'm like, which one's the best example? I'm like, there's a lot, because like this year has been really joyful. I found lots of different communities that I've been able to like really feel safe in and unmask in and reflect different parts of myself. And the ADHD Babes, the body doubling has really changed a lot for me. And like at the beginning, I felt like, oh, I'm here just to work. And then it started being, then you start socializing with people. You're like, oh, wow, no, we're all just, our own little, in our worlds. And like, we've all got our own versions of our neurodivergence. And it was really nice just seeing how everyone navigates the world, like in their way, and having that, like, okay, wow, I can see myself in so many different people. And then as well as like the queer community I just mentioned, like there's something so beautiful about being able to connect with that part of me that I didn't think I'd be able to, like in a queer way, where like, we've got gay Arab men belly dancing better than I've ever seen anyone belly dance. Like this is cool. Like I was like, well, can you teach me this? I was like, this, yeah, and like that, like, yeah, really bring me so much joy, like see all these different intersections. And yeah.
I love that. I love that. Yeah. I want to learn gay Arab belly dancing. Man, so many times I wish I was in the UK. I have to visit. I have to visit. And yeah, I love what you said though, because I shared a bit about the things that bring me joy. But I used to think for a long time that I had to push my Nigerian identity aside. That if I embraced my queer identity, I had to push my Nigerian identity. But I'm finding that no, it is all part of it, and finding other people, Nigerians, who are queer and neurodivergent, and I can say things and I can be like, jollof rice is the best jollof rice. What are you talking about? Like, people will laugh. It's like, and not have to hide a part of myself, because that's part of who I am. I'm Nigerian, and I'm queer, and I'm lesbian, and I'm neurodivergent, and I'm this, and I'm that, and all of it. So yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Thank you for saying that, because that's exactly how I felt in my 20s. I felt like to be Black, I couldn't be Arab, so I had to like move that aside. Like, or like I'd go into Arab spaces, I was too Black for those, and I'd go into like Black spaces, I was too Arab for that, so I had to like choose. And then the same with like my Muslim identity and my queer identity, I had to pick and choose parts of myself, and then I was like less than, and it's only now that I'm like, oh no, you can be all of it, and you should be all of it, and all of it is so beautiful. And yeah, that's what makes us amazing, because we have all these different parts. Yeah,
exactly. That's what makes us amazing, and that's what makes other people feel like they can open up and share all of who they are. So yeah. And would you say, like, how would you say your hyperfixations or quirks actually bring more connection into your community?
think I feel like, because you were talking about voracious reading earlier, and I'm like, because I read voraciously everything. I like to read research papers and articles and this and that, and so I feel like I have like this wealth of knowledge. So when someone says something, I'm like, oh, by the way, did you know this about this? I'm like, we talk about jollof rice. I'm like, oh, but we talk about, and I'm like, let's talk about this thing. I'm like, I think it's just, I think that's a neurodivergent thing as well, where someone says something, I'm like, did you know all these facts about this thing that I just found out? Like, yeah, like I know all, like, and I think that's where it comes from. And then you find someone else who also knows the facts. I'm like, okay, we're on the same level, and you're like, wow, yeah, these are my people.
No, totally. Yeah, like I love. Exactly. Like we know a lot about a lot of random things, and that can really help grow our connections and just make it more fun to be around each other. So yeah, totally. I love
and
that.
for so long, I felt like it was so weird that I knew so much about so many things. I'd be like, oh, this is so random. So someone would say something, and I'd be like, by the way, I'm like, no one asked. This is so weird. Like, not you just talking about when, the first district line train or whatever it was, something very, like, the underground, the first train station. I'm like, no one knows to know this. But then, like, now I'm just like, no, people care. People are actually interested about these random little topics. Like, yeah, I'm here just giving people nuggets of, like, facts, and, like, just sprinkling them in conversations.
Totally. Yeah. And it makes you way more interesting. Like, neurodivergent people, we are very interesting people. We sure are. Exactly. So, love it. So, just to wrap up, living beyond boxes means we don't have to shrink or simplify ourselves for anyone. Yes, we are Black, queer, neurodivergent, and or African, and or Caribbean, and we are thriving. Not despite those things, but because of them. So I just want to thank you so much, Sarah, for joining us today. It's been a pleasure to chat with you and learn more about you. And I know I threw some questions at you, so I really, really appreciated all your answers and really how you took time to really think about your responses. So thank you for that. And please let our listeners know where they can connect with you.
Well, I'm actually not on social media really, but if they would like to take me, I would love people to come to the community garden that I work in. We open.
Could you tell us the name?
It's called Coco Collective. Thank you. I told you, networking is hard for me.
All right.
It's called Cocoa Collective, and it should, we'll be opening in February when, for germination, we're doing lots of seed growing, and come along, have a little chat. We're open on Wednesdays and Sundays. I think that's a nice place to find me. Otherwise, I'm running around all over.
I love it. I love it. So Cocoa Collective, it's a community garden. Is it in London or?
It's in South London. There's two
South London.
sites, one in Bellingham and one in Catford, in Lewisham.
Do you have a website?
Yeah, and then we have our Instagram, cococollective.org.
Okay, cococollective.org on Instagram. Thank you. And we'll put that in the show notes. Thank you, Sarah. And you can find me, of course. This is Chichi. You can find me at Chichi Enu, ChichiEnu. So at Chichi Enu. I'm on YouTube and TikTok, but also on Instagram, but YouTube, TikTok, and my website is coming. At chichienu.com is my website. So chichienu.com. So I do want to say, and thank you, Sarah. And one more thing to our listeners. I have a question for you to think about. What is one way you've created joy and community at the intersections of your identity? We'd love to hear from you. So, if you found a sense of home at ADHD Babes, consider supporting us. That could mean signing up as a member, donating, or even just sharing this podcast with your people. Every bit helps us keep doing this beautiful work. You can join the conversation on our Discord or WhatsApp group for members. You can follow us on socials at ADHD Babes. Subscribe to our YouTube channel for the video version of this podcast. And most importantly, stay connected. We're building this together. And as we said, we'd love to hear from you, so you can message us on Instagram regarding the question, what is one way you've created joy and community at the intersections of your identity? You can also message us on TikTok at ADHD Babes. Thank you again, Sarah, so much. And thank you all for listening. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of ADHD Babes, the podcast. If you're a Black woman or non-binary person and need help and support in managing your ADHD or advice on diagnosis, please visit adhdbabes.com. No clinical diagnosis is required to join. Join us in 2 weeks for a new episode. Until then, all the love from the ADHD Babes team.